Hello everyone, my name is Fawzia. I'm a postdoctorate in adjunct faculty at Lahore University of Management Sciences. Last semester I was teaching the students a course, and in the course I wanted to invite a farmer, and while we were trying to address the how progressive farmers view farming in Pakistan, I just wanted to look up an issue that I was taught when I was a student, which is the suicide rate in farmers in India, which is both due to the how climate change is impacting agriculture in general, and how the field is not profitable in particular. And I think as a second generation non-practicing farmer, or a member of a family that doesn't practice agriculture anymore, I can definitely agree to that. But when I was looking that case study up, I realized that some farm bills had been passed in India, and there was some sort of resistance that was rising. So since September, as soon as I invited the progressive farmer to speak in my class, I've been following this case, and I think the way that with which the movement is accelerating has gathered thousands of farmers and is doing what it's doing. It will be written down in history as one of the biggest movements of resistance. So I think without further ado, let me invite guest. Today she's a filmmaker, a dentist, a frontline activist in the farmers' protest. Hello, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, and thank you so much for joining us.
And thanks for having me.
So I was just telling our viewers, whoever has joined us, that this protest and what you guys are doing. You, of course, all of you who are there on the ground, but also all the farmers, men and women who've left their homes, their fields, their only source of income, to come and speak up against what has been to their only source of livelihood, their culture as much as their agriculture. So thank you, and I just wanted to reiterate that I don't think you're only doing it for farmers in India. I think what's happening is through this movement, you're also speaking up for farmers in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in Nepal, because whatever's happening there, corporations taking over the rights of indigenous communities, is I think something that in the sooner or later farming communities in the South Asian region will have to face as well. We are seeing how this community is being marginalized to an extent that eventually everyone will leave agriculture and perhaps go for other menial jobs to make the ends meet. So first of all, thanks to you and to everyone who's sitting there miles away from their home to be able to resist what is being done to them. But let me now just hand it over to you, Navkiran, and why don't you tell our audience what's going on? First of all, who you are, how you're involved in this movement, and what's going on in the field in India right now.
So, first of all, thanks for having me here today. You are right. I mean, the farmers of India are not fighting for themselves only, but they are fighting for a bigger reason, and it's a global fight. It's not just about India. It's the situation in overall in the South Asian region, or like even the other countries. So. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Dr. Navkiran Natt. Professionally, I'm a dentist, and I also have a master's in film studies. And currently, I'm based on Tikri border, which is one of the protest sites, one of the various protest sites. I'm based in Tikri from last almost 4 months now. And other than that, I'm a student youth activist from last almost 13, 14 years. I started student activism when I was in school. So I guess that's also a reason why I'm here today, because I guess as an educated youth, I know how these farm laws, the new farm laws, the Indian government came up with in September 2020, how they're gonna impact not just the Indian farmers but each and every citizen of this country. So we are opposing these farm laws from last almost 6 months now, because this movement reached Delhi on 27th of November 2020, but the protests are going on from last almost 6 months now. So uh, uh, let me place a broader uh, uh, context of the issue. Maybe few people are not aware of the situation. So the Indian government came up with three new farm laws last year uh, in month of September. So through these laws, they are trying to privatize uh, the APMC mandis, which is the sale and distribution system of the agriculture in India. And one law is essential commodity law, under which they are like giving powers to private houses to hold the essentials during the time of emergency. So I guess that's the one of the most dangerous laws, because uh, just recently we have witnessed such a situation. I mean, last year during the time of pandemic, the I mean, in particular talking about India, uh, I mean, during the initial few months, very few people died because of COVID, but more people died because of the mismanagement of the government and because of food scarcity. So, I mean, instead of learning from that experience and making food security a bigger concern and empowering the public distribution system, what this government is doing, they are giving powers to the big corporates to hold the essentials. And I guess that's why we are emphasizing again and again that it's not just about the farmers. These farm laws are not just about the farmers, but they concern each and every citizen of India. And just to oppose these three farm laws, the farmers of India, specifically farmers from the northern India, they are sitting on the borders of the national capital. They are opposing these three laws, and they are asking for repealing these three laws. And there I also want to mention why farmers from other states are not present on the border. There are many reasons for that. One, uh, agriculture was a state issue in India. It wasn't a central issue. So that's another question, and like that's another thing which we are asking again and again. When this was a state issue, then how can center pass these three laws? So because of agriculture being a state issue, the situation of agrarian crisis, the situation of agricultural practices are different in different states of the country. That's why these farm laws gonna impact them differently. That's why few farmers of other states are still not resonating with the new farm laws. So that's one reason. Another reason is after the pandemic, there are different kind of travel restrictions, or the travel is much more costlier than the earlier times, and it's not physically possible for all the farmers of this country to come to the national capital. And it's not like we are not having solidarities. We do getting solidarities from different corners of the country. Uh, the thing is, people are protesting at their own level, in their own states, in their local areas. So yes, they are also resisting these farm laws. Maybe the scale of those protests is not as big as the scale of the movement which is going on the national on the borders of the national capital. So yeah.
So, I mean, I was looking up the farm bills, and as the government claims that it will give more liberty to the farmers, because they're saying that, now we will not decide the market, the corporations and everybody else will decide the market. They're saying that because we are giving you the right to make contracts with corporations or other sellers, or even also, I think the worst of them all is the fact that corporations would be allowed to buy in bulk and store in bulk, and therefore may have more control over the prices. But if you look at the government narrative, it's the fact that farmers have been given more choice. I mean, of course, they are resisting because they do not agree to it. But has anything come out of it? Are people from the government coming and negotiating, or are they just waiting for you to get tired and then go back to your respective spaces? Like, what has happened in this time?
I guess so far the government is just waiting, and they are waiting to like get us tired and like go to our houses. You're right on that point. But the thing is, the point you raised earlier, that the government is giving this narrative that it will give more freedom to the people, to the farmers. So I guess that's the logic our government has given us in the past also. I mean, every time they push the private sector, they have always given the same narrative that it will enhance the competition, hence the performance. But we have witnessed that that wasn't the case. I mean, even when they were introducing they were introducing privatization in the higher education sector, they gave the same logic that it will like enhance the competition, hence the public sector will also work good. But that didn't happen. I mean, like in the wake of that, what they are doing, they are shutting down the public sector. I mean, they are not employing new people. They are they are increasing the rate of the age of retirement, and they are employing new people on the basis of contract or like daily basis. So these are the things by which they are damaging the public sector and giving more chances to the to the private sector. And I mean, I'm not sure if you are much aware of the introduction of Geo SIM in India, but that was a big movement, big moment uh, to notice, because Geo is a telecom company run by Reliance, means Mukesh Ambani. So they introduced Geo mobile SIMs. So when they came to the market, it was free of cost. The SIM was free of cost. You were like, the internet was available without any cost. And once they monopolized the whole telecom sector, and meanwhile, when the Geo was the main player, meanwhile, BSNL, which is our public, BSNL and MTNL, which is a public telecom system, it like it's on the edge of like shutting down because of the poor performance. So meanwhile, the Geo monopolized the whole telecom sector, and now they are charging like huge. I mean, now, the telecom company which started, and like it's free of cost, now they are charging 350 rupees per month. That too for I guess 1 GB per day internet data. So that's a perfect example how these this privatization in the agriculture is going to work. I mean, initially they will tell the farmers that you are free to sell your crop to anyone, and meanwhile they will shut down your public distribution setup, and then these private houses will monopolize the whole system, and the farmers will be left with nothing. They will be forced to sell their crop for the price decided by the corporates. So I guess that's a fake narrative, and I'm saying that's a fake narrative because we already have seen implications of that kind of setup.
Right. I mean, yeah, I totally agree because I don't know what's the situation in India. In Pakistan, farmers, specifically smallholder farmers, it's already not profitable for them. Already they are leaving this sector. So of course, if you think privatization of the company, of the sector, it would also mean that they would, expand, like expel you from this. They will eventually, first make you suffocate as a farmer, and then eventually let you abandon your fields, and then of course make it a bigger corporate setup. And I think anyone with an iota of common sense would know where this will eventually lead. So I think it's already happening, and it will, that's I think the direction that corporations would take anyway, because they're not there for the well-being of farmers in general or smallholder farmers in particular. So I think I also want you to talk about the scale, like visualize the scale of this protest for us. How many sites are there? Where are people coming from? What are the numbers? And what is happening at these campsites?
So the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, these protests started in September 2020, last year in the state of Punjab and Haryana particularly. So the government didn't listen to the farmers. I mean, at that time also they were having meetings with the government representatives, but all the meetings were like worthless. So finally, the farmers decided to march towards the national capital on 26th of November. And when they started marching towards Delhi, that was the time when our government tried to stop them by any hook and crook. They dug up the national highways, they put barricades, they put big concrete blocks in front of them on the national highway, and they tried their best to stop them. And that's another like quite uh, depressing, like how in a democratic country you can't even protest, you can't even ask for your rights. So yeah, that all those things were happened. And I think the whole world have seen the images of 26th and 27th of November 2020. So after that, almost say uh, 2 lakh people reached on the borders of the national capital initially, and earlier there were only two morchas or the protest sites named Singhu and Tikri, but eventually there were 5 different protest sites on the borders of the national capital: Singhu, Tikri, Ghazipur, Shahjahanpur, and Palwal. And after like 2 months, one protest site, which is Palwal, that merged with the Shahjahanpur protest site. So now, at present, we have 4 protest sites, and there were days when almost 10 lakh people were sitting on these protest sites. So even currently, nearly 2 lakh people are sitting, 1.5 to 2 lakh people are sitting on the protest sites. Now the number is bit less as compared to earlier days because of different reasons. It's also a harvesting season. People are
Yeah.
going back home to like take care of their crops. So, but they are like going and coming back in turns. So it's not like they are tired. They are still adamant that they will go. They won't go back until this government is not going to repeal the 3 farm laws. But that's the situation. And interestingly, this is as I said earlier, I'm a student youth activist from last almost 12, 13 years, and also both my parents are activists. So I was part of many farmer struggles in the past also, living in Punjab. And I have never seen uh, this much women participation in any of the farmers' protests of the past. From that perspective, also it's a very interesting movement. How like thousands of women are coming on the roads, and they are claiming their share of the labor, their share of the movement. And it's not they are coming as secondary protesters. I mean, like, they are on the protest sites not as a mother or not as someone's wife or partner or sister. They are on the protest sites as farmers, as primary protesters. Because if we talk about the facts, more than 50% of the agrarian labor in India are women. But still, unlike neither state nor society recognize their labor. So this is the I guess first time they are reclaiming their share of labor. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, that's very fascinating as well. I mean, I saw your the speech that you made on Women's Day, and it was incredible how many women were sitting there. And I think in terms of women in agriculture, it's the same in the entire region. So even in Pakistan, women are involved in agriculture. They would be in the fields all day, but it's unpaid, unrecognized, unheard labor. So they're seen, but they're not heard. So I'm glad that they're also part of the protest and they're also being heard in the protest. And I'm sure that people will realize that if decisions have to be made, then communities have to be a part of the envisioning of the process. So I think the one thing that definitely was done wrong was that when these farm bills were created, when these acts were created, people, indigenous people, farming communities, men and women should have been a part of the envisioning of the protest, but the bills. But I think that hasn't happened, and that's why there's so much resistance. Otherwise, I'm sure that a win-win situation could have been created had there been more discussion and inclusion of communities that would have been directly affected by it. I was going to come to this women participation in the protest. Would you like to tell us more, like how, because I remember when the protest had started, I was seeing that when the men had gone to these protest sites, there were a lot of pictures of women being tweeted who were driving tractors and who were working in the fields. But of course, that wasn't new. We have seen that, but it was trending. And suddenly now you see all the women taking part in the protest as well. That area too is evolving. How would you describe the women participation and them becoming a part of the voice?
Yeah, I mean, even here in India, when media started covering these protests, initially we were getting pictures of women just making rotis on the protest sites,
Yeah.
and that was quite disturbing because we have seen women on the protest sites uh, doing all the I mean, all the work they can do. I mean, they are taking lead as leaders. They are handling stage. They are volunteers, controlling people on the stage, and they are running libraries. They are running langars. They are running publishing newsletters. Like they are doing each and every work on the morcha. So from that perspective, it's quite interesting to see women from a different perspective. That too, in a community which is otherwise quite patriarchal and masculine. I'm like talking about this whole region. I'm sure I mean like that's the case with the West Punjab also. I mean like the community is uh, quite masculine and patriarchal in that sense, and women are not uh, allowed to express themselves very like openly. So coming from those communities, from those regions, the way they took charge of each and every work on the morcha was very new and very like empowering to see. And also, and like still we can say that in comparison to the male participation, maybe the women participation is not that much. I mean, like maybe the ratio is say 75-25. If 75% are male, only 25% women protesters are women, or maybe 80-20. But uh, we can't forget that lakhs of women are working back homes, and that's a reason why lakhs of men are present on the morchas. The women are taking care of the field, they are taking care of the family and children, and work outside home. That's why so many men are able to sit on the morchas. And just imagine, like when these men will go back to their like villages or to their homes, uh, the situation of those women will be uh, very different from the earlier. And like they will be more empowered, they will be more in their own control. So I guess in that way also this movement is quite interesting and empowering. So yeah, I mean,
Wonderful.
and that yeah, there are other factors also.
I mean, it is very, very wonderful. But Navkiran, because you are there, you're seeing everything on the ground. I'm sure there's very little that we get to read. I mean, I've been reading about it continuously, but I'm sure that it's still not out there. For example, I only got to know about the Trolley Times through your timeline. So I'm sure that this space, this morcha, has created an overall community where you're saying, for example, you're saying that women are being empowered, and the role of women is going to change when they go back to their respective communities. But also at the morcha, there are a lot of interventions that are taking place, in the form of, for example, those magazines that you've started, etc. Tell us about some of those stories that you think the world needs to listen to, of individuals as well as movements within the Morja.
I guess in one line I can say these protest sites are temporary cities of farmers away from their actual cities or villages. And that's also a reason why they have all the amenities which any other city can have. I mean, like on the protest sites, we do have libraries, we have schools, we have cinema theaters. Not I'm like theater, but we do have screening equipments and screenings are taking place regularly. We do have our own electricity system, sanitation system, and all that stuff. And these trolleys, which also became a symbol of this whole movement, they are working as individual house units. So, in that way, these are the temporary cities people are living in while they are protesting against these farm laws. So, and just like another city, all these startups, we can say the protest startups like newsletter and library and screening space, they become really important as a space of entertainment, as a mode of resistance. And I guess the reason behind starting these initiatives were also uh, we wanted to explore different modes of resistance, because in such movement when people are sitting for like months and the protest is like running 24/7, they are living on the same side, they are sleeping there, they are eating there, they need recreational activities, they need different kinds of ways to resist or to engage with the same topic. So, in that way, libraries are helping us where they can read about the past struggles, they can read about the movements people of the same region have uh, witnessed in the past. And we started a discussion group along with the library on the name of Trolley Talks, where we invited intellectuals to talk about the overall agrarian crisis. Because, as you said, even before these three farm laws, the situation of agriculture in this region or overall in India wasn't really good. The agrarian crisis is quite deep, it's quite serious from last few decades. So it's really important to talk about those things also. It's also important to see this whole movement in the context of a broader political scenario of this country. So for the same, we started Trolley Talks, where we invited intellectuals to talk on different issues, and people started engaging with those topics. And then we started screening films on the name of Trolley Talkies, where we started screening like say revolutionary or alternative cinema, through which we can again tell them about the past movements. And we also showed the autobiographies of the biopics of the revolutionaries. And a similar initiative was Trolley Times, which is a weekly bilingual newsletter, because we were realizing there was a connectivity uh, gap within the protest sites, because the spread of the movement was so big that and there wasn't a very good connectivity, because there were issues during the initial days. And also the Indian national media was trying to derail the whole movement by derailing the narratives, uh, saying these are the separatists, these are the Maoists, they are not here for opposing the farm laws, but they are asking for a separate country, or they are trying to break India. So they put those kind of allegations, and we thought it's really necessary for us to counter those fake allegations. So these were the reasons why we started this bilingual newsletter, Trolley Times, and it solved both the purposes. It also worked as a connectivity link within the protest sites, and also it helped us in spreading the true narrative across the globe about the morchas. So, and I guess also this is a movement where one can find a very fine balance of like different generations. On one hand, we have our elder leadership, where our leaders are like where our leaders have experience of say decades, and they are fighting struggles of on the same issues or on the farmer issues from last few decades. On one hand, they are leading us, and on the other hand, there is a big chunk of young generation like us who are becoming part of such a huge movement for the first time, and we are trying to find our own space, how we can strengthen this movement. Some of us are like directly related to the farming, some of us are like you who didn't do farming from last say 2 generations, but still they are somehow associated with the movement. Or like I said in the starting, that even as a well-read citizen, I know how these farm laws are dangerous, not just for the for farmers, but for each and every citizen of this country. So we were part of this movement from day one, and somehow as young people who want to do something good, who want to contribute uh, something for the good of our country. We were also trying to find our space in the movement, and we started such initiatives where we use these newer modes of resistance, where we like took help of the social media to spread the voice of this movement globally. So I guess I mean in that sense, this movement has done many new things.
Yeah, I'm sure that with young people like you coming in, the voice must have amplified a lot. And I was going to ask you the question of how are the messages from these morchas unified? You know, how are you not, because you're at different sites, how you're not divided? But you've already kind of answered that. But since you've mentioned the youth, and of course, when youth speaks, they have a very different style. We have lesser patience for inequality and inequity, and that's why our language and our body language is very different from our father or forefathers. But I was looking at, and I think this is also true again for the entire region, of how young activists are being impacted by it, how again they are restricted, and they have to, I'm sure, filter a lot before they speak. And I think this narrative of someone speak, I think this entire movement is for the love of the country, because you want the country's culture to remain intact and its communities to thrive. But how is this voice used against you, and how are so many youth activists now behind the jail, or behind the bars? I mean, is that frustrating for people like you? Do you have to be very cautious in the movement, or are you overall okay?
I guess we are overall okay because we are together. I mean, like our only strength is our togetherness, because we are not state. State has all the power. They can use any power against the people to oppress them. So we are not state, so we don't have that much power, but our only power is our togetherness. Our strength is that. So as long as we are together, we are like on the protest sites, we are quite okay. We are quite safe. And yes, this government is trying to spread that fear among the young people, because they know these are the politicians of the future, or these are the people going to oppose their policies in the coming days. That's why they are categorically targeting the young people. I'm like looking at this movement. They did filed complaints against the farmer leaders, but they didn't try to catch them. They they didn't arrest any of them. The people they have arrested are the young people. Like say Disha Ravi, an environmental activist. She's quite young. She's just 21 and a professional degree holder, an MBA graduate, and 21-year-old girl. They have put sedition charges against her, and the two other people who are involved, whom they have named in this case are Nikita Jacob, she's a lawyer, and Shantanu, he's an engineer. So all three are young professionals who stood in solidarity with the struggling farmers. I don't think any of them is directly related to the farming. So this is a very planned tactics to spread fear among the young generation, among the working professionals of this country, because I guess also the professional youngsters are their next target, because the way the rate of unemployment is getting higher, the way they are decreasing the salaries, they are and like the whole economic crisis, the the first impact of that crisis is like gonna target these young professionals, and they gonna oppose this in the coming days. That's why they already started terrorizing them, and they are standing in support of the farmers movement. And what charges they are facing? Sedition charges, as they are doing something against this country. So, in such charges, maybe we also know that these charges are not going to stay for longer. But the idea of like that media trial they are facing, and this narrative around them that they are facing sedition charges, that itself is a punishment. Living with that tag is itself is a punishment. And we have witnessed it in the past also. When the Indian students or the intellectuals, they are opposing the fee hike or the fee cut in the public universities or educational institutes, they have faced similar kinds of allegations, say in the case of JNU. So I guess this is how this government works. They always try to spread a fear among the masses, on the name of nationalism, on the name of religion. They are doing it again and again. So yeah, this movement has opposed all those attacks of this government. On one hand, this government tried to communalize the whole country. They are trying it from last 6 7 years, and this very movement, the farmers movement, we showed them how secular this country is. People across caste, class, religion, region, they came together opposing the three farm laws. So this movement has opposed each and every agenda of BJP.
Right. Yeah, for example, even for me, I care about the movement because I also come from a remote mountain community in Pakistan where they're very small holder farmers, and I know that they're not economically well off, and I know that they're suffering and they will continue to suffer, and that's why anything that happens anywhere else in the region also sensitizes me, because it makes me think about the people I know who practice agriculture who could be impacted in a similar way through similar reforms. So I think all of us are speaking about it because we care for the farming community, and also because we are upset that the people who bring food to our plate do not have food on their plate. The farming communities that I know have very little on their plate. And I think it's a very unfair in that sense that, those who are growing our crops and those who are providing food in the market are not eating well themselves. So how are people being at the morcha is impacting their livelihood now? You already said that some people have returned for the harvest, but how big of an influence is that going to be? Does it mean that the already suffering farmers will suffer more because some of them might have compromised on their income this year to stay and resist the bills for the longer good of the community?
Yeah, you are right. I mean, like even when you are saying that majority of people from your community are small landholders, that's the case with this region of India also. And like on one hand, this government is trying to is propagating that these are the big landlords, they are the rich farmers who are opposing these laws, but that's totally false. I'm like nearly 85% of farmers of Punjab and Haryana own less than 5 acres of land. That means they are small farmers. So they are small landholders, and those are the people who are sitting on the protest sites. Yes, matlab, we have seen some like big landlords, but they came in their big cars, big Porsche cars, and they like stood up in solidarity for an hour or two, and then they went back. The people who are sleeping in the trolleys, who are sitting on the road, they are not big landlords but small farmers. And yes, they are compromising their this year's earning for a better future, in the hope of a better future. And I mean, like, even before these three laws, agriculture wasn't a very profitable profession. I mean, like, India have witnessed a sudden increase in the farmer suicides during the last 2 3 decades, particularly like states like Maharashtra, Punjab, Haryana, and Andhra Pradesh. Sorry, Tamil Nadu. So these are the states which has witnessed a big number of farmer suicides. So that means people are suffering a lot. I mean, the situation of majority of the farmers of this country is hand to mouth.
Yeah.
And particularly talking about Punjab, Punjab doesn't have any alternative resources of employment. We don't
Yeah.
have any industry. We don't have. I mean, like on the name of border state, they didn't set up any industry. We don't have any development sector. We don't have any IT sector. And the only industrial setup we have is the Hojri setup in Ludhiana district, and other than that we have nothing. So our youth is forced to migrate in the foreign countries for employment. So that's the way how Punjabi farmers or the farmers of this region are surviving. And like the coming generation, they are trying to migrate to the foreign lands, and they are earning money there and then sending that back home for the family survival. But we don't want to escape anymore. We need employment on our own land. So that's also a message we want to uh, give to this current government. Enough is enough. We need our land back. We need a prosperous agriculture, not this hand to my mouth survival kind of thing. So I guess, yeah, that's the thing. Yes, people are compromising, they are adjusting, like they are facing tough times sitting on the motors. It's not like they are enjoying or they are on some kind of holiday
Yeah.
while sitting on the protest sites. I mean, they do have other things, other problems back home, with which they are struggling. But they are doing all this for in the hope of a better future, and I hope we shall reach there soon.
I hope so. I hope so as well, Navkiran, definitely. I mean, you mentioned that the situation has been tough, the condition has been tough, and I cannot imagine how people have been sleeping in their trolleys, in their tractors, or at the morcha. Firstly, when there was so much winter, and then now I'm sure that the summers are approaching and it would become hot and humid soon. So every season, every situation is going to be difficult. Someone has posted a question. I think it's Amarjit, and he's saying, is there some kind of initiative to encourage farmers to do better farming, or are there any
Yes,
initiatives for the farmers, like doing?
I mean, yeah, people are working on independent basis. There are no like public initiative or government initiatives in that direction, which we are asking for. So I'm like, we are asking it again and again that we don't need. I mean, even if you are saying that agriculture needs reform, yes, it it does,
Yes.
but we like on the name of reform, we don't need these three farm laws. Instead, we need a sustainable agrarian model, which you didn't give us like from last many decades. So we are asking for it. We are asking for a sustainable model of agriculture. We are asking for MSP on all the crops so that we'll be able to produce multiple crops, like varying cycle of crops instead of uh, just sowing paddy and wheat. So which is also like damaging our environment, our surroundings, and I'm like, we are the people who are facing the impacts of that failed model. I mean, like in 1960s, when the whole nation wants to like have enough grains to uh, feed, when this country needs enough grains to feed the countrymen, that time they selected this particular region, Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, and we happily did what we were supposed to do. But now, when like we are facing the implications of that model of green revolution, we are the only one who are facing that. I'm like the region I come from, the Malwa region of Punjab, is now known as Cancer Belt, and that's because of the chemical fertilizers, pesticides the government has forced us to use during the time of green revolution. So I guess we need alternative models of agriculture, sustainable models of agriculture, and this government, instead of like forcing these three farm laws on us, they should work on those alternative and sustainable agrarian models.
I mean, thank you for mentioning this. I mean, it's true that the privatization actually started with the Industrial Revolution because we brought in industries, we introduced chemical intensive agriculture, we asked the farmers to do it because we wanted to produce extra. It actually started there. And now our soil is being damaged. Of course, with time, the land ownership it's decreasing and it's impacting the farmers. And I think it's true everywhere that now, because of chemical intensive agriculture, the communities that practice it are impacted the most by it. And so the whole world is going back to sustainable agriculture, or agriculture that is inspired by nature, where you know that in a natural setup in the Amazon forests, they don't need a lot of chemicals to keep the forests thriving. The soil has all of it. You just need to allow the bacteria, the biota there to work, and for that soil to thrive on its own. And I think that's where the farmers need to be educated, and that's where our respective governments need to spend their money on, in educating the farmer to revive the natural environment, to revive the agriculture that was more close to nature and was more sustainable and therefore healthy, not just for the farming communities, but down the value chain also for other consumers as well. And yeah, so thank you for mentioning it. I mean, I'd totally forgotten that part of agriculture. So I think one thing also that we, apart alongside this, asking the government to take these bills and acts away, I think we should also ask them to educate the farmers better and to provide more subsidies, just like they did for the Industrial Revolution, to go back to sustainable agriculture and practices like agroecology. So I think now I can just ask you, like, let's move towards the concluding side of the discussion. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I can go on for another hour or two, but I'm sure that there are many people like me who are doing little and they're thinking that they're helping the movement, but I'm sure that we can do more. And you know, I hope that through this discussion, a few more people from my followers and from your followers will listen to this and do more. But what are some of the ways through which we can get involved? What are some of the ways through which we can support this movement, like realistically?
I guess I mean like because we are living in different countries or different regions. One way is uh, to amplify the voice of this movement with the help of social media. One is that which we can do sitting at any corner of the world. So we can use social media. We can educate people because still there are lakhs of people who are not aware what these three laws are, what they gonna do, and like how they gonna impact other citizens, I mean like other than the farmers. I guess we should use our social medias to educate people. And also living in different countries of this world, I guess we need to make global solidarities, because as we also realized during our talk, this is not the fight of just the e-commerce. We are facing similar threats, similar policies in other countries also, say Bangladesh, Pakistan, even like countries like the US or like European countries, because uh, farmers from the US, they have sent an article to us. I mean, like a few of our friends who are studying in the US, they went there to meet some American farmers, where they told them that in the 1970s, similar laws were passed in the US. And
Yeah.
at that time, they weren't able to understand the long-term implications of those laws, and hence they did oppose those policies at that time, but the movement wasn't this huge. So now they are regretting that why they didn't oppose on this scale, and they stood in solidarity with the Indian farmers, and they are saying now is the high time that we have to like raise uh, together and oppose these policies on a global platform. So I guess they are right. We need global solidarities in the time of globalization, because the whole capitalist model stands on the agenda of globalization. So to defeat that model, we also have to make global solidarities. So yeah, I guess that's the like final goal.
Yeah, I mean, very true. Like from today's discussion, we saw that we have more in common, even in terms of the communities that we live in, than the differences. And like I said, your movement kind of makes me understand the farmer situation in our region as well, and in our part of the world as well. And and for example, there's one particular project that's happening in Lahore right now where a big city will be introduced alongside the Ravi, where the farming communities will be impacted because it's urbanization project. They will all have to leave that site. So through these development projects, not just privatizing the value chain in agriculture, but also through bringing these housing projects, claiming all of the agricultural land, making more money because the cities are expanding, and people like the model that more and more people come to the cities, and the construction industry is making profits, so they try to invest in that, forgetting that how many communities will be impacted and how many families will be impacted. So once again, I mean, thank you so much for doing what you're doing, and through you, thank you so much to everyone at every morcha who's sitting there, who's resisting and creating history, of course. And I'm sure that this will go a long way as well. And I hope that the government listens to you, comes to you, and even if they keep their bills, it takes all of your pleas into account and at least modifies it for the betterment of the farmers and the farming communities. Anything that you would like to say before you go, like any goodbye notes, anything at all?
I guess I just want to say thank you for standing in solidarity with us. And also, I'm like, this government is like trying to spread hate between these two countries, India and Pakistan. And like every time we are opposing any like uh, big uh, issue in the country, we are facing any fighting any big struggle in India. So every time they come up with this India versus Pakistan thing, and they always try to reveal the whole movement. So it's really good to see how we as a people have so much common between us. And like on one hand, they are trying to tell us that we are enemies, but on our level, we are realizing no, you are our enemies. We are together in this struggle. So I'm like seeing that is like really nice, and I guess like this is a way ahead. Matlab, we have to make solidarities among masses, and we have to identify our actual or our real enemies, and we have
Yeah.
to stand up against them. So thanks for like standing up for us.
No, thank you, thank you. It was an honor, and I remember like a few weeks ago, I was looking for a speaker, and now I have so many people from the morchas who follow us and who want to join the conversation. So I hope that I will continue this conversation again with other people or with you if you want to give any other message in future as well. Like this platform is as much yours as it is mine, so you'll always be welcome here. And yeah, even this platform is like it's five. We are five friends, and one is from India, and one's from Pakistan, one's from UK, one's from Peru. So even this small platform is an example of how all of us have so many things going on, but we want to talk about it, and we want to bring platforms that would give safe space for people to speak up the truth, not the lies that are being spread, not the hatred and the violence that is being spread, but actually the truth that deep down everyone's a human being, and they are speaking up because they're being impacted by it, and not because they are anyone's enemies, or they are against the governments. Like I said, you're perhaps doing it in the love of the country because you want your communities to thrive, and that's not a bad thing for the country. It's actually very good for the country. So I hope that our leaders realize that as we have, and we will not stop, I'm sure, and keep up the good work. Thank you so much again for agreeing to do this, and good luck with everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, and I promise we'll stay connected. We'll like keep updating you on regular basis, and we'll also be open to hear more from you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, and all the
Okay.
best to you and all
Thank
the youth activists on the ground.
you.
Take care,
Bye.
Navkiran.
Bye. You too.
Bye bye.